and they're trying to rob you of what was given to you. And principle number 3 that I want to share with you to tie into that story is your dreams have to be bigger than the people who are going to try to steal them. See, my dream was bigger than what my dad was trying to do. I know he didn't do it purposely. I know he didn't mean it. But at the same time, it didn't take away the pain of hearing your own father say something. And my father and I are very, very, very close. And to hear my dad say that to me was like taking a bunch of knives and stabbing me in the heart. But I had to make a decision that my dreams were bigger than the people stealing my... How many people do you have in your lives that make fun of you, that laugh at you, say you're doing that thing, that pyramid thing, you're doing this, you're doing that, and they're trying to dissuade you from doing the business? Let me just give you advice. Don't listen to people who are more screwed up financially than you are. I love how people will get into a business and talk to their bankrupt uncle about what they think of the business. Why don't you go talk to somebody like a Michael Anderson who had the courage as a man to be in a business like this and become an MVP? Go talk to him. Don't go talk to some broke person that doesn't know what they're talking about and get advice from them, because all they're going to tell you is, I don't want you to leave me, so I'm going to tell you everything I need to tell you, so you just stay with me. Listen to people who have been successful ahead of time. And by the way, Michael, I have a lot of respect for you. I just want you to know that. You're awesome. Absolutely awesome. So then my RVP decides to tell me one day at the office, he says, listen, do you really want to win? No, I'm just here for fun. I'm getting abused for nothing. Yes, I want to win. He says, and this is what you need to do. You're going to need to drive up here every Tuesday night for our op meeting and every Saturday morning for our training. I said, wait, you don't understand. I live 110 miles away. He says, I understand that. I said, I work as a retail sales manager at Circuit City from 9 to 7, Monday through Saturday. I don't have the time. Ooh, some of you say that all the time. I don't have the time. I can't do it, George. And George looked me in the eye and he said to me, you want to win? You'll be here. If you don't, I'll know what you decided. And I walked out of there, not saying present things, of course, and I thought, what am I going to do? So I decided, okay, I was a retail sales manager. It's not, how many of you know if you've ever been a retail and you're a sales manager, it's not easy to change your schedule. You're the manager. So I went in there and I told my boss, look, I have to go to these financial education workshops on Tuesdays and Saturdays because I'm so stinking broke and you don't pay me enough. I need to know how to manage the little money you're giving me, so I need time off. And he says, oh, okay, no problem. I'm like, huh? That was what okay. So here's what I did. Every Tuesday, on Tuesday nights, I went to work from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock, got off of work, hopped in my car, drove to Ontario in traffic for a meeting that started at 7:30, didn't get out of there until 9:30 to drive home, which was an hour and 10 minutes to go to work the next morning. And then on Saturday, I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning, hopped in my car at 6:30, drove to Ontario for a training meeting that went from 8 to 11, left Ontario, crashed home as fast as I could, got in my work clothes, and went to work from 1 to 9 on Saturday. And I did that for 2.5 years.
Bravo.
And most of the time, I was talking to my invisible friend Frank, because nobody was coming with me. But I went every Tuesday and every Saturday for 2.5 years because George told me, if you want to win, you'll be here. And we have people that live right over the mountain that couldn't make it here today. Adina, my coaching buddy, 4.5 hours she drove to be here today. Yay. You don't think she's going to win? That is unbelievable. So here's the fourth principle I want to share with you. Winners find ways. They do not make excuses. See, I found a way to do it. Was it convenient? No. Was it easy? No. Did I like it? No. That was a long, boring drive. Because how many of you know when you go to meetings by yourself and you're left alone with you and your brain, that is not a pleasant ride home. Your brain is constantly going at it. Oh, I stink. My parents were right. My dad was still. What are you doing? You're driving up there. You're putting miles. You're ruining your car. did it. Then they talked about your first convention. The Atlanta, Georgia Dome. 55,000 people went to our conventions every year. They're talking to me about I have to go to a convention. I said, what convention? Well, you got to go to this convention. If you want to win, you got to be there. Yeah. I'm calculating the cost. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be there. I can't afford it. I can't afford it. I can't afford it. And let me tell you something. The more you say you can't afford it, you're right. Change your language. Change your verbiage. Change what you're saying to yourself. And so, George sat down with me and he says, I'm going to tell you something. The people who don't make it to the convention don't make it here. I'm not a gambling man. This is what he said to me. He says, but if you want to gamble on that, then don't show up. And I said, oh man, he's going to do this to me again. So here's what I did. I went home and had garage sales. I went out and did things in the community to raise money. I sold things that I didn't need. I did whatever I had to do to come up with the money to make it there. Because George told me, if you don't show up, nobody's going to make it. Or they won't make it. I get to this convention, I'm in a room of 55,000 people in the Georgia Dome where the St. Louis Rams play football, and I am telling you, there is something that happened inside me that day that changed my life forever. And I'm going to stand here today and I'm going to tell you this bluntly and directly, and if you don't like it, I apologize in advance. But let me tell you something. I would have never made it. Never have made it if I did not get to that convention and see the vision that was not painted anywhere else. And let me tell you what happened over the years. This is what I told my team. And let me tell you what I learned. The people who didn't go to the conventions never made it. All of my leaders that were successful were the ones who went. And let me tell you something. How could I tell somebody that they need to get to an event that big when I didn't go? How am I going to take people's excuses away when they say I can't afford it if I was in a place like that and found a way to go? That convention absolutely changed my life and my business. And so here is point number 5, which I know you guys are probably anticipating this one. You have to get to GTC no matter what. Winners find a way. They don't make excuses. And let me tell you something. There's something that's going to be painted at this training that you can't get in this room. There's a dynamic and an energy that is created when you've got 10,000 people together, or however many are going to be there, that you cannot create anywhere else. The people that say they can't make it are the ones that need to make it. Because there's going to be something that happens in that moment, in that convention, in any second, where something's going to snap, and that person's going to say, I'm all in. But I am telling you, from 19 years, the people in my business who didn't go to the convention never made it long term. Because they couldn't grasp what that bigger picture was. So I want to encourage each and every one of you, don't make excuses. If you want to win bad enough, find a way to get there. Have a garage sale. Do some, whatever you got to do. But don't make the excuse of saying, oh, I just can't afford it. Find a way to go, because GTC could be the last link in your business that's going to change everything for you. And if you don't get there, and everyone's going to come back fired up, woo, you should have been at GTC, that was awesome. You're going to start going, oh, what did I miss? And you're going to feel left behind. Get to GTC, folks. 2.5 years of driving up to Ontario, I couldn't take it anymore. My car couldn't take it. Nobody was coming with me. My invisible friend Frank, I was sick of him. I was tired of talking to him. So I went up to George and I said to him, now you have to understand, we're in financial services, we're in a regulated business. And in our business, only RVPs are allowed to do presentations. I was not an RVP, I was a district manager at the time. And I went up to George and I told him my dilemma. I have to do meetings down in the desert. I have to do, I can't come up here anymore. No, Jerry, you don't understand. You have to be an RVP. It's a compliance issue. You can't do this. I said, no, George, you don't understand. I can't keep driving up here. I need to do, I can't get people to come. We went back and forth for a half an hour. And finally, I learned my first close. And I said, George, let me just lay it down straight for you. Either you give me your slides so I can copy them and do your presentation in compliance, or I'll make up my own slides and hope we don't get caught. The choice is yours. And George gently slid his slides over to me and said, don't you add anything to this. And I said, okay. And I went out to the printer. I was, woo, man, I'm a closing machine. I closed my RVP. And then I drove home, and my mind said, McFly, where are you going to do these meetings? You're going to invite people to your 300 square foot house? Hey, thanks for coming. Listen, I think the toilet's available. There's a couple seats in the bathtub. Go in there. Where am I going to do these meetings? So I got back and I got my team together. I said, we're doing meetings. They looked at me like I had just lost my mind. So we went down to Downey Savings Bank in Palm Desert. And I told them I needed a meeting room. They didn't ask what we did. I didn't tell them. And they gave me a meeting room for free. And when you're broke, free is great. So we signed on for a year. How many Tuesdays are available? All of them. We'll take them for a year. So we signed on for a year. So my first meeting that I decided to do at Downey Savings Bank, I haven't taken this thing out in so many years. I was broke, living in this 300 square foot house, had no food, and yet I had passion. And so I was standing at the door in my only suit that I owned. So let me show you how great I was when I started. Look at that. Look at that. That's my first suit. And I said, man, I look good. And I was standing at the door, and this is an honest to God's true statement. One of my consultants came walking up with his wife who'd never been here. And I was standing up out here just, greeting people. And she's walking up, and she looks at me. She looks at her husband. She looks at me. She turns to her husband and says, "What kind of meeting is this?" So I thought I looked cool. And so he went in, put his wife in, got his wife in there. He comes out to me. He says, "Brother, you need a new suit." I said, "What's wrong with it?" He said, "You look like a pimp." I said, "I think it looks cool." So this is how I did my first meeting. I thought I looked cool. People were looking at me like, "Oh my God." But I did my first meeting in this because I didn't know any better. And you know what happened? Huh? It doesn't fit, actually. Actually, I kind of grew a little bit since my first presentation, but just for the heck of it. Oh, maybe it does fit. Look at that. Look like Pee Wee Herman. Isn't that good? That was my first suit. But do you know that night, 3 people signed up in our business. I think because they feel bad for me. Listen, we need to get involved and help this guy get a new suit. But 3 people got involved. But you know what happened? I started doing meetings at the bank every Tuesday night. I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew was I was excited. I was fired up. I got up there and sold the vision. I was praying. Nobody asked me what I was making. I didn't want somebody to come and say, so what are you making? Well, more than you are right now. And you know what? Nobody did. But I had the courage to do it anyway. And so the 6th principle that I want to share with you is this. You don't need to wait till you know everything to take action. If you take action, what you need to know will miraculously show up. And a lot of us get so caught down. I have to tell the story real quick, because when I first went to Barbara's house, this is an odd, I don't even know if I told Barbara this, but this was so fun. This was how out there I was. I go to my house and I see Barbara, this executive national vice president, this beautiful home. It was one of her Arbonne meetings at her house. And she taught me a lesson that night. She doesn't even know this. And I remember the place was packed and Barbara came and sat on a stool. Now you have to remember, I come from a business, financial services, we're doing PowerPoints. We're like, look, we're the images, we're doing the PowerPoint presentation. So Barbara comes and sits on a stool. And she starts reading her presentation. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my word, how in the world did she build a presentation doing this?